Hello, my darlings, and welcome to day 31 of the 31 days of horror. Oh, I've saved the best till last. Now, some people call this the Marmite of books, as in they love it or they hate it. I am one that loves it, although I'm not a fan of Marmite. It is the final, the one and only Ash by James Herbert. James's very last book. Within 6 months of this coming out, darling James had passed away. Yeah. He was born, our darling James, on the 8th of April 1943, and he died on the 20th of March 2030. He was 69 years old, and it was such an untimely death, such a tragic death. But darling, James, my darling, you live on through your books, and that can never be taken from you, as you are most famous for saying. I'm not into high literature, but I think all my books are literate. You have to love a man that doesn't take himself too seriously. All of his books all give us his unique take on life, and none more so than Ash. It's a completely different take, but I will say that past characters, the rats are mentioned, the fog is mentioned, the dark is mentioned, Spear, that's mentioned in here, along with many others. Did darling James know that this was going to be his last book? He certainly attacks the establishment with a vigour of a possessed person. I sometimes look upon this book, or at this book, as a love letter to David Icke. Now, if you know, you know. The lizard people. You seem to have this obsession, didn't you, David? That the Queen was a lizard. Maybe she was. Maybe David Icke knows more than we do. Maybe David Ash knows more than we do. Well, it's his third and final instalment of the Ash trilogy, his last book ever written. It's a shame, really, because it's quite the chunky book, don't you think? It is the most wicked book, is Ash. David is invited to investigate Cormoric Castle, that is loosely based on Balmoral Castle. Oh yes, where the Queen resides, you know. Oh, she did, till she died there. After reading Ash, things there seem very immoral. Yes, immoral goings on at Cormoric Castle, Balmoral, in inverted commas. A secret place of illicit people, evildoers and politicians. Corrupt clergymen. Oh no, really? After the ghost of Sleeth, more corrupt vicars and paedophilic priests? Lord Lucan is an inmate. Would you believe? We have magicians practicing occult spells that would cast us all to hell. Ancient darkness worshipped by all and sundry that stay in Cormoric Castle. As for our beloved Ash, Mm. Will his mind be lost to us forever this time? Only the rich can stay. But we don't want them anyway. We would prefer the rich to be locked behind these doors, and the assassins and the cruel, macabre practices that they've all taken part of, and the dark arts to which they worship. I think they rightly deserve to stay in this exclusive hotel for the damned. The song Hotel California you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. It's quite appropriate for this book, don't you think? Poor David. Repeat after me, David. Ghosts are not real. They cannot harm us. They cannot hurt us. They cannot cross over into our realm and do the dark art practiced within these pages. Can they? Will they? It's Halloween, darling. Anything goes. Poor David. He's got such a journey to do. Oh. This was first published in 2012 by Macmillan, an imprint of Pan Macmillan. It was released on the 14th of September 2012, and poor James would be dead 6 months later. From James to us devoted fans. All my stories begin with the premise, what if? This has never been more so than with Ash. However, let me plead that there are some basic truths among the fiction. Have fun deciding which are which. James Herbert. That was the last thing that he wrote to his fans. Queen Elizabeth II, allegedly. There are dark forces at work in this country, about which we know little. Queenie, did you say that? Oh. Point Alma Tunnel, Paris, 31st of August, 1997, 12:59 a.m. The death of Princess Diana. As her life ebbed away in the crumpled Mercedes, she thought of her two sons. Who would take care of them? Who would guide them through their early years? Not their father. Oh God, not him, and all he stood for. How could their lives be normal? Now her mind, along with her flesh, was becoming cold. She could feel herself drifting away. Far, far away from this ruined metal shell that entrapped and hurt her body so. She was aware, vaguely, of incessant bright flashes, a gabble of shocked, greedy voices, the last sound she would ever hear, as closure softened her remaining moments in this intrusive world. Even as her life faded, her final concerns returned to those of the living, her two sons, who would be there for them. For the briefest of moments, their images followed her into the painless velvet void. But then they were gone, leaving her to wonder for a second if in death she would find the soul of the barely born child she had lost. Oblivion took her just as hands reached in to help. And that is the passing Princess Diana. Was she murdered? Is that what James is hinting at, or was it just an accident? Part 1. The Journey. Present day. The untidy little man peered out from the bookshop's window, squinting into his vision. He was watching the doors of a huge grey building that housed the BBC World Service office and studios. Those doors were in constant use, drawing in and disgorging a ceaseless stream of visitors and staff. The Mark was still inside, but Cedric Twig, great character, was patient as always, comfortable in his assumed role of book browser in the Kingsway W.H. Smith, pretending to be interested in the lofty novel he held in his hands. He had idled here for the last 20 minutes, having arrived half an hour earlier, picking up a hardback here and there to peruse its contents, replacing each volume, then choosing another. The phony shelf cruising had led him from the back of the store to the large plate glass windows overlooking the busy street beyond, and from where he chose a final volume entitled Flat Earth News, which he opened and brought up close to his face as if absorbed. But every few minutes he would gaze distractedly through the windows as if considering the next, while, in truth, he was contemplating the impressive edifice of the Aldwych building at the end of the broad and bustling Kingsway. There was another entrance-exit in the discreet courtyard at the back of the Bush House. But he had an associate covering that. A call to Twig's Samsung would inform him if their Mark had left the building that way. His pretended attention returned to the book again, and he turned a page, appearing to be engrossed in its warnings about the world's news media. Twig was a fastidious individual who had once enjoyed the subterfuge involved in surveillance and tracking, learning the Mark's habits and regularly visited haunts. But these days he found the chase less agreeable, the long stakeouts tedious, the satisfaction coming only with the final dispatch. Small in stature and unremarkable in appearance, he could reasonably have been taken for a poorly paid accounts clerk on his lunch break, which suited his role perfectly. Although Twig appeared commonplace, his unblinking grey-eyed stare could be quite unsettling, if directed your way. And although his shoulders were narrow, they were strong and capable of exerting great force through his deceptively dainty hands. With a pot belly recently beginning to swell over his belt buckle, the assumed image was complete. Now the mobile phone in his trouser pocket vibrated against his upper thigh, its ringtone switched off. He reached for it. The tiny screen showed the caller's code name, Kincaid, and Twig thumbed the accept key. "Mark leaving the building now," the thin, excitable voice of his apprentice blurted. "Rear exit, heading up the Strand, alone." "Right." Twig broke the connection and slid the neat little instrument back into his pocket. He returned the book to its shelf, and he made his way out of the store. He walked quickly along the pavement, almost invisible among the lunchtime throng, making his way towards the even busier Strand. Searching ahead for his prey, he only caught the attention of one person, a pretty young office worker on her way to have lunch with a friend, and that was only because he reminded her of someone as he strode purposely towards her. She couldn't quite place the name, but the little man in his old-fashioned raincoat looked like a creepy actor who was in all those slasher movies a few years back. What was his name? Then he'd passed her, and the moment was gone. Now, what puzzled her was why the little man with freaky eyes was carrying a furled umbrella under his arm on such a chilly but bright, cloudless day. Isn't that a really gorgeous way to start and get into this novel? It's got so many twists and turns. It's so flipping convoluted. It's unreal. Ash descends into absolute madness within this novel. He really does. And let's just say he has a very ill-timed relationship within this book. Every single time Ash goes in an investigation, he gets involved with the lady who's asked for help. Given your track record, Ash, I don't think another relationship really should be entered into. And declaring that you love each other after just a couple of days, that should be a red flag in itself, Thea, my darling. You see, all these women are not who they profess to be. The beautiful Christina from Haunted, Grace Lockwood. Well, she was a one, wasn't she? Oh, and this Delphine should be known as Delphine. Oh, Delphine, Delphine, Delphine. Nothing is what it seems. The ones that walk the corridors of Cormorant Castle still wield their ultimate power, but behind the castle walls, this luxurious, beautiful place where only the rich can go, only the depraved rich can go. Yes, you don't really want these people out in the general public. And I think as punishment, this is the perfect place to put them. They can have the illusion that they're still living the high life. But we all know they're really in purgatory. I wonder if they're allowed to die. Or if they are dead and they just don't know it. Oh. And poor Ash has been called in to check out a haunting. Well, it did say, set high on a craggy cliff top on the wind-battered western coast of Scotland is a remote, secluded ancient castle. A castle that holds secrets that would shape the world if they're ever revealed. I told you it was a love letter to David Icke. David Ash, ghost hunter and parapsychologist, is sent there to investigate a series of bizarre hauntings that have grown gradually more menacing and horrific. Unaccountable noises, inexplicable putrid smells, the dimming of lights, deathly chills, and objects mysteriously flying across rooms because the rich weren't getting the room service that they deserved. But when the resident is found in his room, dead, are you sure he's dead? Pinned to the wall, only his vicious blood holding him in place. Not vicious, viscous. The investigator is all too aware that a powerful and dark force lurks within the castle's ancient walls. Well, Elizabeth did say there are strange things happening out there. An incorporeal power fed by the evil of those who inhabit this sanctuary called Cormorant Castle. Is it really a sanctuary, Ash? Are you absolutely sure? It's evil. It's more portal to hell, I think. It is fed of those who inhabit this sanctuary called Cormorant Castle and ignited by a long ago curse. Listen to me, a curse would be a blessing on the inmates of this hotel. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. There are other humans, miscreants, with black souls, who roam in the corridors and passageways. Yes, they're called butlers, darling. Infamous people long thought deceased by the outside world, yet their hour of retribution is at hand. I don't think there's enough retribution to go around to be distribution to all the inmates of Cormorant Castle, Balmoral. James Herbert's hugely anticipated a controversial new novel. Yep, it was controversial then and it is now. Funny, isn't it? So many years later, things that are in this book are starting to make sense. Was James trying to warn us, do you think? Does David Icke know more than we do? Is Lucan really galloping round and sugar? Ah, yes. There's some evil, insidious little people in this book. Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell, father, is in it. His name escapes me now. Somebody will have to remind me about what his name was. Anyway, we all know that he fell off his boat and he drowned at sea, right? Did he really? Was he just a paid-up member of this place? Told you the book, the place is full of depraved souls. What happens to them? They deserve everything they get, apart from our David, our poor David. Do you think he survives? You'll have to read the book, my darlings, to find out. I do truly, honestly hope you will give Ash a go. It gets a lot of hate, but I don't know why, because I think it's absolutely brilliant. I'm sad in a way that it was James's last book. I'm sorry that he was dead 6 months later. It really is an absolute tragedy that he's no longer with us, bless him. But the Marmite book, you either love it or hate it. I love it. I know there are lots of people out there that do love it. And those that have never read it, well, I'd like to give you the opportunity to do so, my darlings. I really do. I really want you to pick up this book and enjoy it for what it is. A rollicking good read. 693 pages, 103 chapters. It's quite the titan of a novel, but it is so beautifully done. The writing is excellent, the story pacing is excellent, and James, well, the guts gore galore are in this novel, and the scary things might actually be true. Can you tell fact from fiction? Well, read this and find out. Yeah. I really hope you've enjoyed Halloween this year. I've enjoyed Halloween. I've adored Halloween. And I do so hope that every book has given you a different tale to enjoy. So, without further ado, I wish you all a happy Halloween. I hope you all get the sweeties of your hopes and dreams. And if you are going out collecting and trick-or-treating tonight, just watch over your shoulder, because you don't know who's watching, whether be of this realm or the next. Keep doing all those wonderful things, my darlings, reading all those wonderful books. And remember what I always say, happy readings, darlings, and enjoy. Have a wonderful, hauntingly good Halloween. Wow. Take care, my darlings, and don't have nightmares. Don't eat too many sweeties before bed. And remember, too many sweeties and you lose your teeth. Good night.